Исмаил. Welcome to Almaty. Welcome to New Vision Forum. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you here. Thank you very much.
Good to be here.
How do you think strategic vision is a skill or talent? Is it given or you can develop?
I think neither today, okay? And the reason I say that is that strategy as a discipline doesn't apply today, because in strategy, you're trying to say, okay, here's where I want to get to. What's the best path to getting to that point? We have a couple of problems today. We don't know where we're really trying to get to, and we definitely can't figure out the path, right? Many companies will deliver or create a 5-year strategic plan for their organizations. Well, today, by the time you've finished your 5-year plan, it's out of date, right? Because the world is changing so fast. So this actually applies across the board. Say in education, if you're doing a master's degree in neuroscience, you're out of date by the time you finish your master's degree. That's a crazy structural problem where the domain is changing faster than our ability to teach it, right? So that's a structural issue. That's the problem that we have with strategy. So today, when I respond to people about the future of strategy, I basically say, look what Amazon is doing. They're running 100 experiments on a nonstop basis and then going where the data tells them. Because you can't know what's happening in the world or what pricing mechanisms a customer would prefer. You can only try by testing and experimenting and then ruthlessly going where the data tells you. That's a very different style of leadership for the future. And it's very difficult for our existing leaders to adopt it because they think they know, right? Because they've been, I've been 20 years in supply chain. I know supply chain. Well, when the pandemic hit, you don't know supply chain. So we have to adapt and operate all of our vertical areas with a very different heuristic going forward, which is constantly testing. We're like a blind amoeba. We're just feeling at the edges and seeing where it is and then crawling forward little by little.
It's very fundamental.
Very fundamental.
As far as I know, you have a degree in physics.
Theoretical physics.
Theoretical physics.
Yes, that's why I'm bald. It's a very difficult concept, yes.
It's, really, I admire people who has fundamental education. How do you think, is it the key to the future?
It is useful. I did my physics degree for totally the wrong reason. I did it because it was the lowest workload to get a technical degree. So I did it for those reasons. But I got very lucky because I got very excited by quantum mechanics and by some of the discussions happening in physics, like quantum computing today. I can at least pretend to understand a little bit about it, etc. I think it is more important, I think, than a fundamental scientific basis today is liberal arts. Okay, like if you think about Steve Jobs, he was not a technologist. He was a liberal arts major. Why? Because the liberal arts, studying humanities, philosophy, linguistics, etc., gives you different frames of thinking about something, and it gives you a richer tool set to swap between mindsets to solve some particular problem. Right? Some theory of philosophy may be very useful in some area that you never thought about. So more than half of the CEOs in Silicon Valley today have a liberal arts degree. They're not techies, which is really surprising, right?
It's really...
Now you need the techies to build things, but to hold a vision and to think about different business models or different go-to-market strategies, you need a very rich, varied mindset.
So you don't believe that an AI can become an artist or musician?
No, I think an AI absolutely can. Yes, I think it will. Where I have a problem is when people talk about AIs becoming more intelligent than human beings, mostly because we have no idea what intelligence is. So what are you talking about? Because there's about a dozen facets of intelligence. Okay, and AI, when we think about the IQ test, we're measuring 2 facets. We're measuring the speed of thought processing and the ability to match concepts across framework. But we're not measuring emotional intelligence or spatial intelligence or linguistic intelligence or the Eastern concept of presence or awareness. We're not measuring any of that. So what do you mean by intelligence, right? So that's why I have an issue when people say AIs will become really intelligent. Please define it for me before we start freaking out about that. But there's no question that AIs will become very rich artists, musicians, etc. just because creating art is a pattern recognition framework, and you're taking constructs from the past and applying it in new ways. And you can direct an AI very clearly to do that. My favorite ChatGPT prompt is take the Genesis Bible 1, the origin chapter in the Bible, and rewrite that as a rap song. And it's kind of incredible to see how an AI, and that's real art. I mean, it's incredible to see how it thinks about it and what it does, right? And so there's no question that AI can do those. I think that's the wrong question. I think it's what problems can we now focus humanity on? Because I think what AI does, it allows human beings to become more human, right? You think of the most valuable colleagues and employees you have are the ones that learn the fastest. And I think AI will help us all learn faster.
So AI is not a mindset, but it is a tool.
It's a tool. I think of it very much like typewriter to word processor type model. I think of AI like electricity. The more electricity you have, the more things that are electric powered, the richer the world is. And I think we'll embed, like we've embedded electricity or small batteries into everything, we'll embed AI into everything.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I think it's like commodity.
It's a commodity, exactly. Yeah.
It's very good.
It's like a natural resource, right? Like energy.
As far as I know, you was a vice president of Yahoo.
Yes.
And after that, you made a startup which you sold to Google.
I sold a startup to Google, yes.
Yeah, it's a cool experience.
Also why I'm bald.
Yeah, it was very hard. I also have a startup. How can I sell it to Google?
We were right there in Silicon Valley, and we were talking to Google and partnering with Google all the time. And so when it came time to selling it, there was a natural spot inside Google to fit. It depends a lot on what your startup does and whether it's applicable. But I would talk to Asset at the new Silk Road incubator, because he helps companies bridge into Silicon Valley. And I think that's a powerful model.
So each company has a chance.
Every company has a chance. In fact, you don't know, right? Like, when Facebook appeared, there were 20 other social networks. So when ChatGPT appeared, people had no idea that it could be a thing. So the only way you know is unless you get out there and try it and iterate very quickly. Because the first time Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn said very famously, if you're not embarrassed by your product when you launch it, you've waited too long. Because many people try and get their product perfect, and then it hits the market and it's not what the user wants. You have to redo it anyway. So might as well go out there with what's called the minimum viable product, lean startup thinking, and then iterate that very aggressively.
Test and try, test and try.
That's right.
So what's the point? What makes different? What makes your project spread worldwide?
I think it's the ability to iterate, right? Like, I'll give you the example of Amazon Prime, right? Which is a subscription model for delivery, etc. When they first thought about it, people said it was a terrible idea, because if I give free delivery, one day I'm ordering a toothbrush, the next day I'm ordering toothpaste, the delivery cost is much more than the margin that Amazon makes on each item. So they say, we'll lose a fortune if we do this. The only way to know is if you test it. So they ran a test and found out that people that use Amazon Prime tend to batch up their deliveries anyway and tend to order way more things. So in the end, it became a huge multiplier. But you couldn't know that until you test it. So I think the success of any startup today is the ability to design experiments and very quickly run those experiments, gather the data, and incorporate the results into your process flows.
So it's also about energy.
Completely about energy, because you have to have a huge amount of passion, and you have to be crazy, right, to do this. Because what is the framing? A startup is a total, a desperate experiment looking for a business model. I think I'm so excited by the possibilities that new technologies provide that I get really excited by the future of humanity. We're shifting the world from a scarcity model to an abundance model, right? And we have two futures in our human society. One is Mad Max, and the other is Star Trek. Okay, all our political leaders are pushing us straight down Mad Max. Ukraine, Gaza, Mad Max. The U.S., Mad Max. Right? But we have the opportunity as technologists, as startup people, as thinkers to go, wait, we have a Star Trek opportunity. Let's go down that path. And have a much richer future than where our politicians are pushing us. I think I've seen very few places in the world that have a richer opportunity for the future than Kazakhstan. I think the opportunity, because you have natural resources as a foundation to keep you safe and protected for a while, and you can really go crazy. So what I would say is eat a lot of horse meat, pick the idea that you're craziest, that gets you most excited about solving. And here I think for me, the biggest a challenge for Kazakh people is they tend to think they're very cautious people, and they think they're very quiet, whereas you succeed by being crazy and getting out there, right? Like Italians. And so I would say have every Kazakhstan person go to Italy for a week and then come back with a complete chaotic nature. Or take psychedelics, right? One of the two. And then but what I've seen is there's enough really crazy people here, they can drive the future. And I think there's a very rich future, because most other countries in the world, let's say the US, Europe, Japan, etc., they have to unlearn 50 years of Harvard MBA thinking and relearn new models. Whereas countries like Kazakhstan or Africa, you can see the UAE leapfrogging most of the world to new models. I think Kazakhstan has the opportunity to even leapfrog Singapore and the UAE to operate a truly 21st century country.
How do you find this forum and the audience of this forum?
I think it's wonderful to get such a large group of people together to really think about and talk about and consider a new vision for Kazakhstan, and for not just for Kazakhstan, but for the world. And I think the list of speakers and the topics that were being discussed is a great convening of the biggest topics that are the most important in the world today.
What was the topic of your?
My talk was about the future of technology, which is exponential, like AI is growing exponentially, computing is growing exponentially, etc. And more importantly, how do you organize for that new world? I wrote a book 10 years ago on how do you scale an organization as fast as you can scale technology? Because most of our organizations are designed for the 20th century, and they're top-down command and control, pyramid style, designed for efficiency and designed for predictability. But today you need to be architected for adaptability and flexibility and agility and speed. So that requires a very different organizational design. And we talked about that in this book I wrote, which we just launched the second edition of. So I did a couple of talks on that, but also generally about what's happening with technology, and specifically the unbelievable opportunity in AI for countries to leverage AI to completely transform themselves.
So how do you think, what is the best implementation of AI in today, every day?
I mean, imagine let's take Kazakhstan. If you took all the educational curriculum and all the content for high school, primary school, university, all the tests, etc., and loaded it up into a big AI, you could give every child and every adult a link that says, here's your free tutor for the future. And you could give free education for the entire country at whatever level. I mean, that's totally doable today. Same thing with healthcare. You could take all the healthcare data, clinical trial data, therapeutics, prescription data, load it up into an AI, and give every person a doctor as a link. So if my toe suddenly turned blue, I just ask the AI what the hell is going on. And so I think there's unbelievable, and you could do it at almost zero cost, right? Consider the cost of the education system today, or the cost of the healthcare system today, and time, right? And so the unbelievable opportunities, it just requires a different mindset for applying these new technologies. And we talk a lot about the need for mindset shift in the 21st century and in today's world.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
Welcome
me.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.